All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the No Guts, No Galaxy podcast 154. We're your hosts, Phil and Darren. Today is January 11th, 2017, and the first podcast of the year. All right. I'd like to say a quick shout out to everyone in chat. Hopefully, you're having a great day. And, what was your New Year's resolution, Mama Bear? Did you have anything in particular? Was it like, lose weight like normal, or was it like to.
What are you saying? Why'd you say that first?
Well, you did mention your daughter started running. I just figured maybe it'll encourage you to get off, the chair. I don't know.
Are you recruiting for your events? I don't do New Year's resolutions really anymore.
What?
After decades of realizing that all that you're doing is setting yourself up for failure and disappointment.
What you're saying is you just accepted, it is what it is.
If you're gonna change your life for some reason, you should do it year round or whatever, and not New Year's. Now, me saying that's just my own personal thing. If people are able to use it as a catalyst to make good things happen, awesome.
Yeah.
But no, I'm happy it's 2017. I'm happy it's no longer 2016. What a fucking year.
I was gonna say a lot of people died. I mean,
a ton of people died. There was a collage that was done. I saw somebody do, like the cover of Sergeant Pepper's. Yeah. So it was like that, showing everybody that died. And yeah, it was a pretty, it was a bad year for celebs and other people. But
yeah, it happens literally to all of us.
It is. Yes.
Eventually,
it's the circle of life. And
yeah. Well, not to be a Debbie Downer.
I know.
On that one.
Now I'm depressed. I don't even want to do the podcast anymore.
Anyways, how are you, man? What's been anything new in your life? How was the holidays? How was the new year? Did you?
Somebody in chat just said Keith Richards endures. I don't know how, man. The guy is like a freaking miracle. Of all the people that die every year,
right? Ozzy is still alive, and all those, right? And you're just like,
maybe there's something to the drugs. Yeah, no, I'm super happy. Obviously, the end of 2016 was pretty good as far as what we got to participate in, but I'm very much looking forward to 2017. It's going to be, I think, another phenomenal year, or hopefully an even better year. But I was speaking more in particular to BattleTech and MechWarrior.
BattleTech game.
Obviously, the hat I'm wearing. I'm very excited about this game coming out. They did the Q&A today on Hyper RPG, and it was Mitch, Tyler, and Mike.
Did you get to? I didn't. I was in a meeting. So
yeah, I watched the whole thing. 2016 was fucking awesome. Hey, for everybody that had a good year, kudos. That's good. A lot of people I know didn't, and that's why you get those memes for 2016. But if you had a good year, awesome, man. I did too. I mean, I personally had a pretty good year. A lot of people around me.
I'm not just saying if you had a horrible year, don't worry. Us here, we had a wonderful year. So that's all.
Yeah. No. So, but I think it's going to be a really good, exciting year, and a lot of stuff for us. Phil and I have already been kind of having some, not like hardcore meetings, but some just discussions about what we want to do in 2017. Obviously, we want to play the shit out of BattleTech, but also continue with MechWarrior, see where that leads and continues to develop.
Speaking of which,
MechWarrior 5, which is part of our thing. But before we get into, MechWarrior 5, right? I mean, this year, I don't know what 2017 is going to bring as far as MW5, like what we're going to be able to hear about and when and so forth. But yeah, I mean, we got, like I always say, the ongoing development of MWO. We got BattleTech coming out this year. We got MechWarrior 5 coming out next year. A lot of good things in store. So there's a lot of stuff to be happy about. Mech packs. Look at CK16, man. If there's anybody in this game that cannot deal with the fact that all the
CK's like been flipping his shit, dude. Like
he wants to know what the mechs are so bad, and I don't blame him. I totally understand. Anyway, that's part of the subject matter tonight. But before we get into the topics, is there anything like over your holiday break, anything that you're into? What's going on with you?
No, everything's good. I sort of took a break from, training and everything, and so now it's getting back into it pretty heavily. I've registered for all my races pretty much, so 2017. So for those that may not know, I got into obstacle course racing via Spartan races, and I think I did around 15 or so in 2016. And for 2017, as of right now, and I actually still have 2 more races to sign up for, I'm around 32. So
it's a lot of races, dude.
It's a lot of races, and I'm super excited. I mean, you get to meet amazing people, and that's obviously a big thing. And of course, challenge myself. 2016 was sort of saying, okay, hey, what are you getting yourself into? What do you need to work on, and get a good grasp of that. And then 2017 is going to be
is like, how can you kill yourself?
Yeah, how can you apply it, and how can you struggle and suffer a little bit more because you're a sick individual. No, I mean, some people, but yeah, but no, man, super excited. Yeah, just got to hang out with the family. That was actually really nice, dude. My little sister has a car and is driving on the roads. My little brother is not far behind.
Time flies, man.
That's a scary fucking world, by the way. Not that they're on the road and that they're getting older. It's just like, I remember being that age, and I'm like, oh my God. Like,
dude, I was stealing my dad's car when I was 13 years old, driving over a freeway.
How are you going to deal with it yourself? You have a daughter, dude.
It was Highway 17.
You have a daughter. How do you mentally cope and prepare yourself?
She's not as bad as me yet.
Like, I don't.
Phil, you're killing me, man.
I don't.
You don't know why.
What? Am I doing something?
Yeah. All of chat is picking it up, but man, I can't. You're not paying attention as you normally do.
Oh, I have your face covered up with the
do you?
browser.
No wonder. I'm like, God, this is just not working.
Let me see your mug. What is it? What about your mug? Let me see it. Holy fuck, dude! What? Who does that? That's not even.
That's
normal.
Not optical illusion either. But it's
oh, I would have been more impressed.
As a fucking joke on you, I didn't put coffee in it because it's impractical to use. The thing's huge, but I get it as a joke, and you don't even.
No,
I did.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Sorry, bro. Like, because I have your face covered up because I have the browser. Yeah, like
I'm just sitting there drinking from it, pretending.
Totally right over. Yeah, Jared's like, damn it, Phil. Like,
woo.
Yeah, no, man. 2017, I'm super excited. Obviously, MWO BattleTech. I mean, soon, very, very soon, in the near future in life, I guess,
very soon, man.
We'll be able to play and/or stream BattleTech on the channel. We'll be able to hopefully name some of you guys and then see how long you last in my Iron Man. Campaign. I have a feeling a lot of you are gonna die. You need to mentally prepare yourself, as I'm mentally preparing myself to watch you perish, and then have to deal with that internally, and then have to deal with sending out letters to your wives and children. Dear Mrs. Katz, he was an amazing, all that fun stuff. But no,
it's gonna be fun, man, and yeah, like.
Oh, you know what I'm also looking forward to? I don't know if it'll be 2017, but teasing the shit out of everyone about MechWarrior 5. Like, is that horrible of me? Like,
pretty horrible of you.
Is that okay?
Hey, you know what this shirt is?
I do. You know what? So, do you guys know what he had to do to get that shirt, though? Let me tell you, it did involve a whistle.
Hey, everybody signed a document that is not. You're not able to talk.
What happens in Vancouver stays in Vancouver. Oh man, yeah.
But you know what he did for the shirt that I gave him?
I thought you were about to like whip out a cape or something. I don't know what you're doing. What?
I'm whipping out a cape. No, I was getting a little hot. All right. Let's start this. First podcast of 2017. You know what? I was doing the history. Hold on a second here.
History of
just looking back. Well, it was. Why was this? Maybe it was. Yeah, it was a tax reason or something like that. Rebecca's doing the taxes. I had to look back at when we started or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. First of all, you and I met in 2009 playing Living Legends.
Why do you have to say it that way? Has it really been that long?
Yeah.
Okay.
October 2011, MWO was announced, and that same month, the very end of the month, the last day, obviously, Halloween, October 31st, we launched NGNG Podcast. So that was October 2011. And then, we've been officially employed since October 2012. So we've been doing this for a while. It's going into 2017. Another year.
I've known you for
a long time.
That long?
I had less gray hairs. Let's just say that. Less gray hair in my beard when we started.
Oh, man. And it's funny, when I was streaming this morning, someone asked, they were like, do you even know anything about like MechWarrior Living Legends? And I was like, uno momento. I definitely had to drop the link to the Stormcrow. And I was like, yeah, that maybe was my first 3D model ever. Just say no.
It's making a revival. I've been playing a little bit of Living Legends.
All 20 people. Yeah,
no.
That's one of our topics, actually.
Yeah, it does come up in one of our topics. At peak right now, it's doing like 2 or 3 servers with a max of 28 on a server.
Can we move that up? Can we just go ahead and just get that out of the way?
You want to jump into, and well, it kind of applies to one of the topics, but if you want to talk about MWO,
well,
sure.
Let's go ahead. So for those that may not know, that's actually how I met Mama Bear. So,
wait. Before you tell the incorrect story, the way it happened was I was looking for a
Don't
unit.
embellish.
On the
No,
forums,
you
I
didn't.
Saw that you
were lonely and scared in the wild, and you saw a wolf pack, and you wanted to be a part of that wolf pack. Go on. No, so I was playing MechWarrior Living Legends, and I was sort of separating myself from EVE Online, that addiction, that life-sucking, amazing experience that was, and MechWarrior Living Legends at the time got my attention, and we hadn't seen a MechWarrior game for years, so I dove into it, and I started doing YouTube videos. I created a Wolf in Exile back then, and I just started recruiting. It was really weird too, because the community was very split. Remember that? Like, no one had there wasn't a central team speak. There wasn't a central area. You had to like break an arm to get someone's information. And there was a lot of like factoring in the teams and everything. And so that's actually how the Outreach TeamSpeak 3 server started, was, me and you basically were like, here's one area.
Create a community.
Yeah. And so I actually got involved with the developer side of things of MechWarrior Living Legends. Now, how did that happen? Because we were doing so many videos and tournaments and playing competitive, we actually got asked to be alpha testers. And it was basically log in. It was like Q&A.
Those were some good times.
Log onto a map.
Shoot at a wall
stuff
50,000 times.
Oh my God, particles just kill my computer. And while we were on there, I started bugging the shit out of some of the 3D modelers and was like, dude, I'd love to do this. How, what, when, why? And so I just started getting into 3D modeling. And, I was like, I really like this. I'd like to do a project. And, they tossed me in the Stormcrow, and that's what I did. And throughout that whole entire process was really cool because, one, I'd never been involved with like a mod, if you will, development. How does it work? And there was a lot of really cool people specifically that I got to know. So MechWarrior Living Legends to me was really fun. I actually met Alex Iglesias, the artist now for Flying Debris. He used to troll the shit out of me in a hawk moth, and remember those? They'd be up in the air,
the shit out of everybody,
and they stutter. Yeah. They don't. I don't know, anyways. But yeah. So
Yep. I mean, that's basically where we cut our teeth as far as the community and kind of revved ourselves up without even knowing for the podcast and working for PGI. The 2 topics for tonight that we're going to cover are basically mechs, like mech packs and the mechs that are coming out and so forth. Not specifically CK, not specifically the mechs that are coming out, but just the way that mechs are going to come out, in 2017 and potentially beyond, and moving the timeline forward, etc. And then the second topic we're going to talk about tonight is game modes. and that's where Living Legends kind of came in. And so we'll get back to Living Legends. There's, like I was telling you before, you said, how is it? Because you haven't played it yet since it's, Resurgence. You said, how is it? And it's the same. I mean, it's
the same.
It's the same in that there's things that they've improved. I mean, there's changes from when we played it last, not anything, terribly significant. But it's the same in that there's things about it that I really like, and they existed back then and they exist now. Game modes being one of them. And there's things about it I don't like.
Gotcha.
And top of that list for me is battle armor.
Gotcha.
But anyway, yeah, it's it is what it is. It's worth checking out if you're a MechWarrior fan, and the installation is a lot easier now. You don't have to have your own copy of Crisis and
Wars and all that. Yeah.
But anyway, let's get into the first one, which is mechs. Now, the reason that things are kind of potentially going to be different, and Russ and everybody at the office has been having long meetings since they got back. This week, Monday, was the first time that everybody was back in the office. For the most part, there was a skeleton crew throughout the holiday. But basically, because of the new skill tree, you don't have to have 3 mechs to level up your mech anymore. So skill packs, potentially, you could release one mech, one chassis, or one variant. I'm sorry. So now it's like, well, how do we release going forward? And essentially, we're looking for ways to make it so that the individual mechs have a little bit more character or whatever, or usefulness, or character's not the right word, obviously. A purpose, a reason why are you buying this mech over the other mech. But also, just as far as mech packs or mech purchasing goes in general, we're looking for ways to make it more meaningful, more value to your mech purchases. Like basically, just give me 1 second. We can compare it to some other games and similar type games and what they do. But what is your comment on what I said so far?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, that's been, now that skill tree's coming, and we know that there's no longer a need for 3 basic variants plus a hero, but they've also been doing 3 basic, a hero, and a special, and then a few other basics sometimes. The question really comes down to is, you may not even have to release variants at all. It could just literally just be one chassis. And I think this is really important because you just brought up the whole, there are mechs currently that the only stalker, there's one that has dual AMS and it has the exact same hard points as another. Do we even need to, and then what about a specific role or a specific weight class or a specific weight class role and the sort of hard points? We can go through with a fine-tooth comb and say, okay, hey, this mech is still out there. We haven't had it in the game yet. This variant would be really good. And on top of that, they don't need to create any more extra variants unless they want to, like a hero or something. But to me, it opens up the opportunity to no longer have 7-8 mechs in a mech pack, which some of them are redundant. I mean, especially with omnipods and stuff like that as well. I mean, they literally could just release omnipods and don't even have to do a particular variant anymore, right? And so, I mean, there's a lot of options. And then another thing, I don't know, how would you feel about this? What if a mech hardly ever gets played because it's got such a similar other variant? Would the community be okay with them removing it? I mean, how do you feel about that? I don't know if that's on the table, so I don't want to get the wrong impression. My point being is...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't feel like that moves the game forward at all. I mean, whether mechs are removed or not because variants are similar, I don't know. It doesn't feel to me like it's a very big deal. Down there's going to be somebody out there that's, an absolute hardcore, I love that variant, don't take my variant. So you'll always have those people. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just looking for ways to move forward, that make people happy to buy the next mech or whatever, like to give them the value that they think it needs. And so obviously that's what Russ is looking at too. Like you just said, we don't have to do 7 mechs in a pack or whatever.
Well, I mean, coming out with a mech can be as easy as saying, one, how many of what weight class, right? So you could say 40, let's just say 40 tonner for argument's sake, right? How many 40 tonners do we have? Or how many 55 tonners? And then out of that 55 tonners, what do we need as far as, a role for, would you say, or like a role being as far as hard points and equipment that maybe others don't
honestly
have?
Yeah, I mean, I think
It's as simple as that.
It's two things. It's hard points and equipment. Obviously, you can make the smaller mechs maybe more friendly in other areas besides just guns and armor. But also, I think it applies to game modes. Our second topic as well. Like, I don't think you can just take the mechs and necessarily give the appropriate amount of value to in-game play for light and medium mechs, but you can alter game modes that then can make those mechs more valuable.
Sure.
So I think that applies to both. And obviously, when we're talking about mechs here, we're talking about two different things too. We're talking about in-game value, like why do I want to get in this mech and drop in this match in this mech? What is the value of this mech for me? And then the other thing we're talking about is just the dollar value. Yep. The new mechs coming out. Do we want to just release one variant for $10 or whatever? So, and what else? Other things go with it. Like that's, we've been looking a little bit at, World of Tanks, World of Warships, War Thunder. They all kind of do the same thing, which is they'll sell a vehicle, whether it be, a tank or a ship or a plane, for X amount of dollars. It can be anywhere from $6 or $7 to the lowest tier vehicles. And remember, these games are tiered, so you won't use like a tier 1 vehicle in a tier 10 game or whatever, which is different from MWO. But like $6 or $7 for the lowest priced ones, to up to packages for $100 or more or whatever that come with all kinds of shit. Now the stuff that comes in all these packages is the obvious premium time, in-game currency, real dollar currency. Sure. Maybe some colors and patterns, whatever, that kind of stuff. So we can just take one mech, we can throw all those extras into it and sell it for $25 or whatever.
That's cool for me though, as a player. Like if you were to pitch,
like what's going to be the best
if you were to
thing for a
pitch to me, Darren, if you were to say, hey, here's the Timberwolf, right, and here are the variants that the Timberwolf has. The first thing, again, I would say is or even if it's a regular battle mech, is don't do very similar variants. Like, let's just say you want to
make everything as different from each other as possible.
Like fire starters. I mean, trebuchets. We have a lot of mechs that are so similar that there's not a whole lot of, differences there. I mean, but you look at the Hunchbacks 4G, a lot different than the Hunchback 4SP, a lot different than the Hunchback 4P. And those are good examples of what I think should happen in the future, is saying, hey, you know what, here is said mech. Here are the variants available, and there are different, and they're going to play different, and boom, cool. But just
let people just buy the variants they want, or a package deal,
or sure, maybe it's individuals at X price, and or here's a pack. I mean, obviously, people like to bundle, or that's currently how it's been, right? But the issue is currently is sometimes a lot of those variants aren't. They're so similar that you just never even end up using them, and or they get relegated to no man's land. So really, you're paying even less or more for the ones that are really good. So
what I'd love to see is, like, I mean, all this is just, I don't want this to be the longest part of the discussion tonight. Like, how can we make these the best, ways to make money and packages or whatever? I think we'll try and finish this pretty quick here. But I think really what I'd like to see is more options and more accessibility. And what I mean by that is if there's a way to just buy one variant for, say, this has nothing to do with what Russ is going to come up with or what PGI is going to come up with, but anywhere from $6 to $10 or something like that, just one mech and a mech bay for cheap, so that people can get the mech that they like, but they don't have to buy a $50 package or a $100 package or whatever.
You know what also could happen, and this is something I'm sure we can talk to him on a town hall or a podcast, is saying, why not have this very open dialogue in 2017 and saying, hey, these are the mechs that we're thinking, chassis and or variants, and make it a vote. I mean, and what I'm saying about it, this is, let's just say January or February or whatever, and the community understands that you have this list of, let's just say 20 mechs. Well, I don't know what it is. And that the community can vote for which ones come out and boom, there you have it. I mean, like I said, just sort of an open dialogue. I don't really know if it's
like CK's thread. Did you see his mech voting thread?
I just don't. We're past closed beta. There's no really need for secrecy. It's a mech community wants to know what mechs.
I think it's more of a marketing thing. I mean,
sure.
I don't think that's what it is.
Well, I mean, sure, but I mean, it's either you can't release you can't release artwork unless you have all of them done. But you could at least say, hey,
two things that you're looking at here. There's on one hand you've got marketing secrecy, so it can be more of a wow factor potentially if it's a wow mech, or there's letting the community vote for which ones they want to spend their money on.
Which if you let them know and they actually vote for, then they spend more money. I see where traditional marketing and PR may be like, we want to hold off and have, but if your community is like, look, we need this mech in the game because we're missing this sort of play style because of these hard points and equipment, and we need this, right? And I think that would be a little bit different. And at the end of the day, if the community spends more money, and eventually all the mechs come out for C-bills, so really,
what I'd like to see, and maybe the community can come up with some other ways to add dollar value to mechs and the way that we purchase them from in 2017 and moving on. What I would like to see though is versatility or options at least. So you could, from the very bottom end, you could just buy one mech and one mech bay for X amount of dollars, hopefully on the cheaper end, and then all the way up to, if they do 3, 4, 5 variants or whatever, you can do a package and get a bunch of goodies with it or whatever, and make it a good value.
But I think what needs to happen with the variants, they need to be good, unique. They can't be so similar.
Which can transition us into the next part of it. I'm done talking about how do we make these a good package to buy. Let's talk about what you're getting at, which is how do you make each mech desirable from a gameplay perspective. So that's what I feel like. Number one, it's going to be, like you're saying, it's going to be design, hard points, whatever, maybe some electronics or slots. Well, it's not going to be, obviously we don't have the modules anymore. So and then the second part of it is game mode. So what can we do to make each individual mech more in-game valuable now?
Well, I think before you even go down to the individual mech level, what you have to do is you have to take a step back and look at how do you make light mechs, mediums, heavies, and assaults their own unique thing. We do have changes in the pipeline. I can't necessarily talk about them, but that helps a few things in this regard.
We know the skill tree's coming out,
right? Skill
so
tree, and so the question now is, with the skill tree, if right now all mechs, and again, even in the new skill tree, all mechs can get radar deprivation. The difference being now is that as a heavy or assault or medium pilot, or whatever, are you going to invest those points to go down that tree of infotech to be able to invest in radar deprivation and or seismic and or whatever? So for me, what's unique about this is, let's just take like the Locust 1V. It's not ever going to be a very good mech as far as lethality. So if that's the case, you can dump a lot of points into radar deprivation, seismic sensor, target decay, all those things. And yes, you may not be lethal, but now though, you've got better base stats on those attributes than, another mech. And so the question is, will that Timberwolf, will that Summoner, will that Kodiak 3 invest those points? Because you're going to have to invest points back into mobility to get that sort of feel you're used to. You're gonna have to invest points into obviously armor, structure, and stuff like that if you want to, but weapons, how is that going to play out? And there's a few other things in the pipeline. I'm sure there'll be a post when time's pertinent on it that'll help the distinction, but I feel like the bigger question is, how do you make lights and mediums, or not even lights and mediums? You know what? Because even there are some heavies that can be lumped into some of those categories. It's how do you make
a game that's all about firepower and
killing enemy mech as quickly as possible? How effective that is? How can
you make the mechs that aren't as strong as that still valuable? And now, and Kaniashi adds a little bit of, basically says, does every variant have to be valuable? In, like, for example, you used Hearthstone, there's some cards that are considered throwaway cards or bad cards or whatever. I feel like there's a simple answer to that. No, not every mech needs to be valuable. But the more that we make valuable, the more
choices
entertaining the game is going to be.
Because, well, and the more choices, because
more choices, because something becomes what you consider playable or whatever. But I feel like the more mechs that we can make actually be fun, then the more people are going to enjoy the game. So and then of course they don't all have to be valuable, but it'd be nice if they were.
And then I think on top of this, it's that a 20-tonner has to be looked at compared to another 20-tonner, and that's been sort of the issue I've had with quirks, and sort of the balance between mechs and quirks is a 75-ton mech needs to be compared to a 75, and so a dragon should not have the same firepower potential, right, as or quirks on top of it, to where now it's outperforming a 75-ton mech, 80-ton mech, 85-ton
unless there's some other thing that's making it like, it has basically no armor, or some other. It's got to be.
No, what I'm saying is to artificially buff a 60-ton mech or 65 to where it's now outperforming.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. No.
And that's where I feel like you have to look at, how are the 70-tonners? Because, we've talked about this. Someone asked me, what's your favorite cataphract? And I said Warhammer, right? Because when you look at just the 70-tonners, and some weight classes, we don't have a whole lot of comparables. But some we do. We have a ton of the same mech, as far as weight class. And I feel like there are a few things. One, the game modes come down to it. When we have a game that's all about killing the enemy mechs as quickly as possible in the most efficient way as possible, you have an out with assault, which is you can cap, right? You have an out with conquest, is you can cap. You have an out with domination, which is you can cap. And even escort allows some type of infotech, running around, which, by the way, those little cap points would be fantastic in some of the other game modes. Those little the radar and sensors and stuff. I think that would be great. The problem is you have skirmish that removes any of those. And
before you get your do you want to transition into game modes? Because actually, I think game modes are the biggest.
It does this. They're all linked to where. Why would you ever take a commando when you can take an Arctic cheater or a Jenner? There's no incentive. There's no monetary incentive. There's no gameplay incentive. And it's very difficult because without rules, without restrictions, of course, like quick play, like as a solo player, it's how effective can I be at killing other mechs? That's how we currently look at it. And that's one of the problems is how can you transition? What do we need to do to a game mode and to introducing something else?
All right, well, let's talk about game modes specifically, because I think game modes are the biggest factor in making, basically the less effective mechs more effective in a different role, potentially. So obviously we have skirmish, assault, conquest, domination, and escort mode, the new escort mode. And then in faction play, we have scouting and invasion. So my question is, and obviously assault is going to have some major changes soon. What I want to know is what can we do to make these game modes more fun? All of them, or do they all deserve to be in the loop? Are there any that we could get rid of, and or are there any that we can fix? Are there any that are perfect and great that we can use as a model to strive for, or whatever? I don't feel like any of them are, maybe other than skirmish. Skirmish is pretty simple, but that's one thing playing Living Legends again recently. I do feel that there's a better grasp on game modes. Now, obviously, there's some major differences, and I don't think that it directly translates necessarily to MWO. One is that it's not, everybody starts off with X amount of dollars. You buy your initial mech. If you earn kills or people give you money or whatever, you can buy larger mechs, and basically it's a race to the biggest mech. And I don't necessarily think that translates to MWO, although there's things that could apply and maybe elements of it or whatever.
You also have a 15-minute match window that MWO and the free-to-play sort of titles.
Yeah, I was getting to that. So then, but the actual game mode, so basically it's respawn, obviously. Living Legends is respawn, MWO is not, but although in faction play we have the dropship, so basically respawn. And what is the feeling on respawn? Is that something we should consider for quick play? But basically, I just get a more, more immersion with the Living Legends game mode. There's things that I appreciate in MWO game modes that I would like to see in Living Legends as well. But I'm just wondering, are there things that we could take that we could apply to MWO to make it more fun? Map size is a big thing, but honestly, I feel like some of our bigger maps are pretty close, so we could still do that type of, messing with the game modes to make them more fun.
Well, I mean, if we look at Assault currently is you have 2 cap points, right? You can win by killing the enemy team and then just just that capping or tie, which is very rare, but it does happen. But it's just the whole aspect of those are your 3 ways of winning and or tying or winning the objectives, and it's really objective play. The problem is it's easier just to kill the enemy team than it is to go and do an objective. It's sort of like domination, right? Or escort. Escort sometimes turns into it's easier just to eliminate the team and then worry about him. Or conquest, it's easier to destroy the enemy mechs than it is to go run around capping. And prime example of that is the World Championship. Now, the reason conquest was chosen is because it forces those teams to at least act if you don't, you know what I'm saying? Like
there's no mechanics that break the whole system.
It leaves it there just in case, and someone could win on capping. But if you notice at the very beginning of the matches, both teams go out and get 2. And then, third is maybe, it depends on if they're winning or not, blah, blah, blah. And so when you talk about Living Legends, they had like an attrition game mode. Now, what they had, by the way, you had 2 main bases that you spawned out. And another key difference, too, is because you did start small, you didn't hop into the biggest mech, or at least back then, actually, you could transfer funds, which sort of broke things, too. But you did have respawn. You died, you came back again, you could grab whatever mech. It doesn't work in a 15-minute window, I don't believe. Now, the whole idea is, then you had like 3, remember the pyramid map? Mm-hmm. You had 3 points, and those 3 points had repair bay, or one actually was repair bay in the middle of the map. And you had these 2
the hardest one to capture.
Yeah,
but
and then
if you did capture it, you might get a moment to repair.
Yeah, and then the outside ones underneath the pyramids didn't repair, but you could spawn from there. And so it was unique in as far as the ebb and flow of battle. You would potentially push on one side and the other. There's a lot of examples right now in other games, whether it's first-person shooters, Overwatch. I know a lot of people have talked about a ton of them, to where what works for mechs and what could you do, and that's really the question. I'm not going to sit here and presume to know the answers, and that's why we're sort of having this conversation with you guys out there, which is, what would you do to game modes? What would you do to bring in line? It's better to possibly play the objective, or maybe not better, but it leaves that avenue to where you can actually play objective play. And fighting obviously still is going to occur, because again, mech fighting, is the primary sort of pillar. I think we can all agree on that. But that's the question out there, because I feel like skirmish doesn't do it at all. I haven't been a fan of skirmish, because it basically takes like the one avenue for mechs to be able to go do things outside of just straight up fight. And that sort of goes back roundtable to what you were talking about, or discussion, Darren, which is, why would you ever take a mech that's not as effective? And I ran into this morning on my stream. We were dropping as a 4-man, and it had nothing to do, this isn't me bitching, it was more of, we kept running into very good players. Well, those very good players were taking a very select min-max setups, and I couldn't have fun, right? And these lesser setups, and it's almost like it's like a ball and chain, right? You're hindering your team if you don't take those, and that's always how like min-max is. But when you look at game modes, and they can use the exact same setups on every single map, every single game mode, then that sort of highlights a problem.
Well, here's a question, and Solzen brings up, and I'm wondering if this is true. If you're talking about a 15-minute match, okay, no respawns, is there really any way to do good objective-based gameplay?
I would be totally for respawns happening in MWO, even with 15 minutes. And I would even say, if 15 minutes is maybe borderline too short, go to 20 minutes. And some people will argue this. They'll say, if there's respawns in, that people will just be stupid in Leroy. Guess what? they do that anyways, and it totally screws you over right now because
I think you know what? I think that's true. I think because I hate when people do that. Like I love
you
games
can't
with
stop
no respawn.
stupid. Like you can't.
But my point, like I love games with no respawn. I love games where people have to think about what they're doing, get in good position, and learn how to get good or whatever, people say. So, but
what does it do to the immersion factor? What does it do to the fun level?
Well, but what I was going to say is I agree. I feel like what you just said is that I think we like to fool ourselves that, hey, we're hardcore. We don't have respawn. And so, but as if people play better because of that, like that's in our head that people play better but I don't think they do. You're right. I feel like people still play exactly how they'd play if there were respawns or no respawns. People, for the most part, just fucking charge ahead. Now, obviously, there's good players in chat here, and they're going to say, I don't charge ahead. Of course not. But I'm saying, just like in general, I think that's true. Now, I've always been a proponent of no respawns. That's actually been like from day one. I've not wanted respawns, but I question that now. And the
I questioned it back then because I remember telling you, playing Living Legends and it had respawn, and it was
because in my mind I figured no respawns, people will play more serious and more, but they don't. And so the question to me then is, well, is it going to be more fun with respawns? And if it is, then let's have more fun. But I do agree that we can't turn MWO, or at least if we did, it would be a huge fundamental change from something where it's a potentially short match, 15 minutes or whatever, to a half hour to an hour. There does need to be the casual aspect where somebody can come play a few matches and leave. And not spend 3 hours doing that.
That's what I was saying is, if you were to say, take Assault or Conquest or whatever, attrition sort of game mode, basically you have, main spawn here, and you had those 3 locations in the middle, and it really depended on the map too, on how big it was, but that's basically the premise here. And those little camps, bases, right, have turrets. They would have sensors, right, and stuff like that. The thing when you talk about that though is like, how does it work for respawn? Is it basically like I took a cicada, and then I'm relegated to only respawn in a cicada, or then does it get into some type of in-game economy? And this is where it could be unique. It could be unique to where in game we consider mechs more expensive or to use, or maybe you only have X amount of whatever weight class you can respawn in. I mean, my point being is, I feel like game modes, like no matter what we do with mech balance for the most part, and I know people are gonna be like, whatever, Phil, mech balance isn't horrible right now, and you're always gonna have min max, and I think
I agree with that. It's not horrible. It could be better, but
it could be better, and there are things coming. There are actually some pretty big things coming to help that. But no matter what we're talking about, mech balance here does not solve the fact of the game modes themselves, and again, skirmish being one of the worst culprits in my opinion, that it just reinforces the combat, which combat's already good. We need other avenues. Now that other avenues may be, obviously infotech, which plays a part, but like going and doing stuff. Now that going and doing stuff could literally just be going and capping a base and strategic sort of play, respawn, but I just feel like, what's the fun factor? I mean,
so Kanyashi says, Darren, what about if players who want a respawn mode go into Solaris type thing? The problem I have with that, Kanyashi, and I know what you're saying, is that the overall goal is to reduce queues, different queues, and we don't want to keep dividing the player base. So what I'm trying to figure out is, how do we take essentially the queues that we have now and just make it better, refine it or whatever. Also, to be very clear, Phil and I are just discussing this. We're not involved in the game modes or anything at the moment. So this is just purely discussion, hypothetical, trying to get some of your ideas. Hunchback Squadron says, I think respawn would kill MWO. That's and Hunchback, just so you understand, I'm not saying that respawn has to happen in quick play or whatever. I'm just saying, what if, or let's look at these different options or whatever. I like I said, from day one, I've been against respawn, but I don't feel like people play better because there's no respawn. And I do want the game to be as fun as possible. So I just feel like We have to look at all the possibilities and figure out what we do. And yeah, maybe the respawn mode is relegated to faction play, and but I do feel like faction play, in my mind, is a lot easier to make fun than quick play. Like, in my mind, I got all kinds of logistics and ways to work with faction play, and since you have the respawn, you can do things that are similar to Living Legends or whatever. I feel like there's just tons that you can do with faction play. I feel like the biggest question mark is, how do we make Skirmish, Conquest, Assault,
well, first off, just to answer your question there, is what do I have to do as a pilot dropping into a match? What do I have to do, and what's available for me to do other than just pulling the trigger and killing mechs? That is the number one thing that hasn't really been answered, which is...
But that there's also the section of people out there that just go, that's what I love to do. I don't want anything different.
And that's fine. But
yeah.
What you're like, if someone's listening, then you're missing the point. The point is, if I drop, there needs to be multiple avenues for me to have success. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that because I did said action that we automatically win, but right. It's the idea that my action...
You have player choice.
Yes, my action, and that's where it's difficult. Is it just running up and capping something? Is it, what action, what thing do I have to do? And that's why, at least... Even though I still think it falls short quite a bit, Assault, Conquest, and Dom, at least there's something there for you to do other than just shoot the enemy mech. Now, I think it needs to be more dynamic than that. Like I said, what do you do to, really emphasize splitting people up? That's difficult too, because right now, again, because it's so easy just to kill the enemy team, as soon as a team splits to go, cap Conquest, they're screwed, because now they're running up against a 12-man versus 3 or 2 mechs. They get stomped. Now it's 10-12, and then it's bad. I'm gonna bring up something that, again, I think is very controversial. I think we have too much player choice. I've said this. I like the fact that you didn't know what map you were going to get when you dropped originally. I like the fact that you didn't know what game mode you got originally. Now, some may say, well, if you knew, then I could cater my builds towards that. Well, that just makes you even more lethal, and there's no randomness there.
Well, speaking on that very specific thing, as far as not knowing your build, there's somebody in chat, I think, and this person's been contacting me outside of the podcast, but saying that they would love it if we could drop into a match with 2 mechs to choose from, both the same chassis, but they could be different variants, so that you could, for example, have a long range build and have a short range build to choose from. That's some of the, I'd say that's almost most of the frustration for people when they drop on a map that they weren't prepared for, is that they weren't prepared for it. Now, some people would say that's awesome. Some people would say that's frustrating. So I feel like that in itself, it was a balancing. Like, you didn't know. You took that AC-40 Jaeger back in the day, that Splat Cat. Yeah, you may wreck face. Now, you have that issue currently. But the problem is when you go in and players can vote. What happens? I also feel like group size is I've been on that horse forever. Now, I say this, I understand some people like bigger groups. And not all big groups necessarily, rickroll all the time, but if it can happen, it will happen. I don't know. There's a science law about that, but hold on before is reacting chat
right now in game. And this is a statement currently live as we play. There is so much fucking tonnage on the field that if you're a light mech and or medium and even a heavy and assault, sometimes you literally, we have too much tonnage as a 4-man and up to a certain extent. And even I would say from a 3 to 4-man has way too much tonnage. And I say this because the amount of firepower out there inadvertently affects a weight class's performance as well, right? Like, you get one shot by, a mech and you're out of the fight, because why? Or it's just, there's so much tonnage out there. And I just feel that game modes in itself, it doesn't necessarily have to have respawns. I think you could even take respawns out of the sort of equation, but it's the fact of what do we do as a player when I drop on a map what are my actions? And right now, it's the exact same on Assault, Conquest, and Dom, which is you can kill the other enemy team, you can cap the enemy team, or you can tie. Those are your only 3 options for all those game modes, by the way. All of them.
And the real question is, how do you make it so that killing the enemy team isn't necessarily the number one option or number one goal of everybody?
And you know what's unique about this, and I'm challenging everyone that's listening to this, is I've yet to sort of see a comprehensive guy or like someone actually take the task at hand and say, you know what, here's my ideas for a game mode, or that it replaces, maybe it just replaces all current game modes, or here's 2 game modes that are very unique, and this is how it would work, and blah blah. There's not really anyone out there that's ever done that.
Alternatives can't just be alternatives for the sake of an alternative. We already have that. For example,
no, what I'm saying that addresses exactly what we're talking about, which it gives a purpose to outside, other objectives.
Fun, yep. Right? It's got to be a fun activity, so not just go standing near something necessarily. Maybe it's capping a point, but maybe there's got to be more to it than that. Because most people are like, oh, when you lose to a cap or whatever, everybody gets pissed. Nobody likes losing or winning to a cap. It's boring, right? So the objectives have got to be fun, or the objective has to be fun, and it has to pay off, right? Like, even if something's fun, but you only get 10 C-bills for it compared to killing and you get 1 million.
Dude, like playing as escort. You can kill the VIP right off the bat because the team fucked up, and you get jack shit. Like, to me, it's just like then why you literally, from a time investment standpoint, you're better off just ignoring the VIP, killing the enemy team, and then killing the VIP. To me, that's a problem. Now, I don't think you can incentivize it just via C-bills. I don't think that's a shallow way of doing it, if that makes sense. I feel like it has to be worthwhile. It has to be deep, if you will. Like if you just throw C-bills at it, it's sort of like, why would you take, for the instance, maybe depending on the weight class or depending on the mech, you actually earn more C-bills. Well, to me, that's very shallow, because you're not really fixing the problem of why someone's not taking that mech. You're just sort of saying, here, well, if you do take it, but that doesn't fix its performance at all. And again, so game modes have to sort of go hand in hand, objectives with, all of what we were just talking about. Anyways, like I said, I guess I challenge anybody out there, and not challenge like a bad thing. I'm saying that's a good thing. I think there should be more discussion with the community out there. I think the community, there's thousands of people. And I do think we can find a middle ground and or a solution to it. But that's the thing.
Yeah, it's not an easy solution, but I do feel like there is some low-hanging fruit that we could potentially find to start improving the current game modes. I think we need to do some self-examination as far as the current game modes and just kind of
let me toss out this from a aspect of, if there's current things in the game and current game modes that can have alterations that would do this, right? Like, for instance, if we can keep we know Assault's getting a rework, right? But if we can keep Assault, Conquest, Dom, and Escort, can we keep those as is as far as the base framework? And can we add on stuff or take away stuff, and even Skirmish? If we can make those things, I think that's a win. So what I'm saying is, instead of just saying, well, none of those work, here's what's going to work, I think that's harder to pitch than it is to saying, okay, we can make this work, but here's what you have to do to make Assault work, to make Conquest work, to make Dom work, and for them to be fun and engaging. But I will say this: objective play and also other aspects other than shooting mechs, some people aren't going to like. Some people love Skirmish. Some people don't like losing to cap. Actually, I'd go out on a limb and say some people get really fucking salty when they get out-capped instead of just a straight-up fight.
Yep.
And that's just something, obviously you have to ignore, but some people don't like that discussion and they don't even like the discussion of saying, Don't mess with my groups. Don't mess with the amount of people
I
can play with.
And this is when I was reacting to chat earlier. The other problem we have is we just have a very diverse player base as far as what they find fun.
Yeah.
And, there's people that are saying right now, I'm just reading, Bear Claw, get rid of skirmish, it's boring, whatever. And then somebody else saying that's my favorite. And then, earlier, LRMs ruin Polar, and then somebody else, I think it was Bandit. LRMs are easy to avoid. It's a fun map.
It's very subjective, right?
It's very subjective based on our opinions, our perspective, what we've experienced, whatever. But that's the problem, is that's why these aren't easy solutions, because everybody says, yeah, it is easy, do what I want.
But
then there's somebody standing right across from you that says, no, do what I want.
And this is where I think there's a few things. One, this is actually where I think the high skill level comp play can be tapped into. And I'm going to say this. I don't believe you cater and you do everything that the comp scene wants you to do. No. But I do think you use them to say, what are they doing and why are they doing it? And is that the desired behavior? I.e., you look at why do comp players at the high level and doing these things as far as tournaments and stuff, why do we never see LRMs being used? Right? Or why are these certain weapon systems, or why are they taking these particular mechs? Oh, those mechs are always high mounts, or they're, you know what I'm saying? Those are the type of things, and then you can transfer all that stuff can trickle down to the masses, if you will. But I don't know. Like I said, I think it should be a conversation the community. That's game modes are what's going to change your everyday gameplay experience, not mech to mech balance.
Yeah. Mech balance is getting closer and closer every freaking, every few months. It's getting closer.
It's always,
and it's good. It's pretty good. But I do agree, game modes are freaking huge. And what I would love to see is something similar happening with game modes that's happening with faction play right now, which is where the community is getting involved. And that's why we had the recent changes to faction play. We're going to have the, by the way, it's official. The next roundtable on faction play is the 27th of this month.
So who's going to go to Reddit? 27th. Who's going to post first? Who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? Kaneyashi, are you going to be the one?
Nobody posted it yet. But anyway, we are going to have another roundtable just like the last one we did with Russ and with Derek, and then maybe another programmer. We're going to discuss the next phase of the development of faction play. So just like last time, it had to do with buckets, this time is going to be more fun, which includes exactly what we're talking about right now, game modes and things to make it more engaging and more fun. But that's faction play specific. So what I would love to see is the same kind of thing happening within the community, and then being able to present it to Russ with game modes. Let's look at the game modes we have right now. Let's really look at them. Are there any that are just fat that we don't need? Can we trim the fat a little bit? What are the things that we can do to improve the game modes?
I'm gonna go ahead.
I would love to see that start to happen.
And I think there's been some idea. I was talking to you about this, and you said there are some people that say, can we? And this is more of just a question. I'm not going to presume to have the answer, but can you even combine and just say we no longer have different buckets? We no longer have solo, quick play, which, by the way, then you have multiple buckets in, right, because of PSR, and then you have multiple buckets.
What he's talking about is combining quick play and faction play. Now,
can you just have an all-inclusive thing?
But let me just clarify that. It doesn't mean that means every time you log in, you're having to do faction play. Essentially it is. But what it means is that every match counts. So like right now, if you do quick play, solo queue or group queue, those matches don't count in any way towards faction play. What I'm proposing, or have been at least discussing with people, and I've heard other people say, is combine faction play and quick play so that there's still quick play modes within faction play. So essentially what you're able to do right now, you'd still be able to do, but on some very minimal level, it would count.
It's sort of like saying your solo experience wouldn't change at all, right? Like you would drop as a solo player, you'd have the
exactly
regular,
and you wouldn't be dropping into invasion mode. You wouldn't be dropping into scouting mode.
But you would have to make it in a way that solo drops, whether it's clan versus IS or whatever. What do the wins and losses mean on the faction warfare front, and what do they impact, right? I think and here's the thing I don't jump to just saying no. What I'm saying is there a possibility?
Well,
have that conversation, be open-minded about things, because if you're open-minded, then we find solutions. If you automatically just shut up and you just say, nope, not possible, never gonna happen, that's horrible, blah, 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 you're not even having the discussion.
Well, Bandit, so people are picking on specific things. Like Bandit says, how would it possibly count for faction play? The decks aren't IS or
That's what I'm saying, though, is let's find the answer.
There's a lot. Do you remember Dane's video about potential fixes to faction play? So I think there's a lot of ideas. So yeah, maybe combining doesn't work if everything is the exact same way it is right now. But what I'm saying is, are there ways to adjust everything so that the overall experience is better for everybody? I'm not saying force people that like quick play casual mode to play invasion and faction play stuff that they don't like. And I'm not talking about taking faction play people that like to play invasion or something a little bit more, whatever, substantial.
Or maybe it doesn't work and there's a better solution that's like the sort of the current. But for me, looking at
all we're doing is just questioning what is out there right now and what can we do.
There's a lot of intelligent people out there, and there's a lot of experience, and there's a lot of ideas, and not all ideas are great, and not everybody's opinion works, including ours.
May be terrible.
But my point being is, there are plenty of you smart fuckers out there to where we can get together and propose something and find solutions. As soon as you say nope, not possible, you're just killing any discourse to even occur, and that's where I feel like that's one of the problems. All we're saying is, how can we improve game modes? How can we improve the solo? How can we improve faction warfare? All that fun stuff. I still have some issues with faction warfare. I know that's not necessarily on the topic of discussion, but invasion mode didn't change. The only thing on invasion mode that changed was no more long toms. For me, how many people, as Bandit calls it, Corridor Warrior Online, how many people don't play, faction warfare? Even with the addition, yes, it's cool that you can drop and response all that, blah, blah, blah. But the core mechanic, invasion, didn't change. And I feel like that discussion needs to happen, and I feel a lot of people out there don't like that, and I think there is solutions to balance instead of just pure tonnage. I think there are some creative aspects. It's just having this all in one sort of framework, right, and having this discussion, and someone and or people's taking the time to put in and put something together. I don't know. Like I said, I challenge the community to do that.
I love our community. It's just, so many very strong, passionate opinions. Anyway, again, I'm just going to make the final point that Phil and I aren't saying let's do it my way or Phil's way or our way.
I'm not proposing anything. I'm just saying,
we're just saying,
have the discussion.
Here's some ideas. Let's start a discussion. Let's, instead of just sitting around grumbling or sitting on our laurels or whatever, let's take the game modes we have and examine them. And if there's ways to make them better, awesome. And if there's some way to, all I was saying with the possibility of combining them is if there's a way to combine them and it makes it better for everyone, so everybody still gets the experience that they want, and the gameplay is better for everybody because there's less wait time or whatever, queue times in I'm not saying that's the only possibility. I'm saying it's a possibility. Let's talk. If it's a bad idea, let's talk about it and say, yeah, that's a bad idea.
It's like saying, hey, here's some low-hanging fruit for the current game modes that would potentially help things, right? Here's a few ideas. But then you sort of have your long-term goals, which is like, but to make, mechs and variation and all that, and to have objectives, you have to have this longer sort of discussion, and it's going to take a while to get there. But like I said, I think there's plenty of people out there to put to work and come up with stuff and brainstorm and have discussions. And I mean, like I said, the cool thing is I see a lot of people in chat saying, yeah, I've got a lot of ideas. It's just whether or not I'll follow through with it. What kind of person are you? Are you a doer? Well, are you a sayer?
Yeah, I mean, but you know what? Some people have said they're going to contact me or whatever. Let's facilitate this. Let's make it happen. Let's get some discussion going on. I'd love to see, positive, constructive discussion going on within the community. And I know it's happened before. Some of you out there like, well, we've been fucking talking about it for 5 years. Fine, that's awesome. And so you'll have some good ideas ready. That's the main thing. Let's talk about it now, and let's see if we can get some action based on it, just like we're doing with Faction Play. But anyway, that is the podcast for today.
Are we done?
Will be back next week. Yeah, I think we're
We're
done.
on a roll.
As far as
Darren's like, it's over an hour. You need to shut up.
I'm ready to move on. But because we have talked this to death. I mean, we can keep speculating.
Yes.
We can keep bringing up ideas.
Yes.
But really, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's a lot smarter people out there than we are. So let's put some of those ideas out there and see if we can make them happen. Wouldn't it be awesome if in 6 months, ideas that we came up with, over the next few weeks actually made it into game and changed it? But anyway,
I mean, if it's a good idea and good solution, why would you, Russ isn't going to say no to it. I mean, especially if the community can, rally behind it. And I feel like, as cliche as it sounds, like the community has the power to make change. It's just, can the community actually make it happen?
Just like He-Man, you have the power.
But anyways, guys, just want to say thank you again for coming out here. We got like 140 some odd people. Thank you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed tonight's topics. It's good to be back, Mama Bear. It's good to see your beard. You guys missed, by the way, the majestic beard combing prior to the podcast. He preps every single time. He is more work like me. I'm just like, I'm glad I showered before, I just got done running for an hour. Like I showered. That was all I did.
No, you know why I do that with my beard? Because my beard tilts to one side. And so so I got to straighten it. That's the only reason.
I heard that's normal with a lot of guys,
Yeah, it does it. Which side does your beard tilt towards? And does that coincide with some other tilting?
Man. Anyways, guys, just want to say, shout out to all of our new followers, all of our new listeners. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast. Again, if you're new to this, make sure to click that follow above. That way you guys get email notifications. I stream pretty much every single day. And of course, if you are new, make sure to check out all the links down below. Maybe you want to take this relationship a little bit further. Maybe, just maybe. You want to become a sub. There's emoticons you can get access to. Slow-mo, by the way, a lot of people don't know this. Slow-mo, if you're a sub, does not affect you during town halls. FYI. Also, too, there's Twitch Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, you can link your Twitch account, and you can sub to a channel of your choosing every 30 days, and it supports that streamer, and it doesn't add anything to your cost. Boom, right there. I'll drop some information in the chat for you guys.
They like my tilting beard. All right, and this is the first time we get to announce this. Well, at least on our podcast, you've mentioned it in your live streams. But we are officially sponsored by and brought to you by Nick's Jerky, and this is kind of cool. Phil and I get a little jerky, and we get to give you guys a little bit of a discount back. So I'm going to drop the link in chat here. But Nick's Jerky, he's a community member who is making beef jerky on a professional level. He has a website. That's what I'm linking right now.
I got you. We got a command in chat for it.
Thank you. Anyway, we have tried. We got some samples. I'm a big beef jerky fan. Now, back when I was actually a butcher, I had a lot of customers that would buy meat from us, make jerky or whatever, and bring it in and give it back to us. And just through my days of hunting when I was younger, I love fucking beef jerky. Now, I love beef jerky. I don't love fucking beef jerky.
I'm not judging.
My kids have a different idea of beef jerky, though. They think these fucking beef sticks.
Like hot sticks.
Yeah, and Slim Jims and shit like that. They think that's beef jerky. That's not fucking beef jerky. Beef jerky is tough. It's something that if it was like, zombie apocalypse, you'd want some bags of beef jerky because it's going to last a long time.
I got 2 pounds and it lasted me maybe 4 days. So, yeah. Anyways.
Well, okay. So it depends on who you are as an eater. But they have all kinds of cool flavors like barbecue, bourbon, brown sugar, hickory, Hunter's Blend, Inferno Mesquite. They got all kinds of hot ones if you like stuff like Korean barbecue. And what did I have? I had jalapeno.
Anyways.
So there's some... Yeah,
if you have any questions, by the way, you can contact him on his Facebook, and he's going to reply like almost immediately. But make sure to check it out. Again, make sure to use the promo code NGNG for 5% off your order.
5% off.
And
yes.
I think depending on how sick, he was moving, so he may be a little bit quiet, but I'm sure. Anyways, make sure to head over there. If you like beef jerky, you're going to love his stuff.
I love beef jerky. I was a butcher. I know a lot of different qualities of meat. He's very high quality.
Darren knows his meat.
I know my meat. It tilts to one side. But no, it's really good, and it's reasonably priced. Out here, at least in California, beef jerky is very expensive. It's reasonably
and he
priced.
only ships to the as far as US, and I think it's like $12 for shipping, which sounds a lot. So order like 2 or 3 pounds, and then that way it's worth your money, in my opinion, and or more. I guess technically, I'm not gonna.
So good. I'm totally standing by this, though. I love Nick's jerky. Also, be sure to check out our website at NoGutsNoGalaxy.net. Check us out on Twitch at NGNGTV, on YouTube at NoGutsNoGalaxy TV, on Twitter at NoGutsNoGalaxy, Facebook at NoGutsNoGalaxy Podcast, SoundCloud at NoGutsNoGalaxy, and for the latest and greatest in mech porn t-shirts, be sure to check out our store at NoGutsNoGalaxyStore.com.
By the way, me and Darren have been talking about possibly, we're not going to make any promises, possibly, we've just been having the conversation of bringing back the old store so that we can do international orders again. We can do pre-orders for t-shirts, bring back coffee mugs, pint glasses, stuff like that. We may do it. It really depends on how many of you guys like that to happen. So just think about that.
Hey, if anybody out there does start a forum thread specifically talking about what we're doing, and it's going to be a positive, constructive thread or whatever, feel free to link it to me on my private message me on the forum, and I'll participate and check it out. But anyway, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it, guys. This was your local No Guts No Galaxy MechWarrior podcast, signing off for tonight. This is Phil,
and this is Darren.
Until next time, Mech Warriors. Bam. Nailed it.